to paint in some more of the small details on the edge of this glass. And I'm still chunking in the shapes of lights and darks. Because this is glass, there's so many reflections, and it's just about looking and trying to replicate these reflections the best that you can, and thinking about the values that you see. Some of them might be sharp and some of them are going to be blended together. So you need to assess what's the best way to approach that. Am I going to blend it together? Am I going to leave it as a sharp, crisp line? Or maybe it just blends slightly. So you're making those determinations. With this, I added a tiny little bit of stand oil. This particular type is for this type of water soluble oil paints. But you don't have to ever add oil. It just makes things a little bit shinier and dry a little bit slower. So you're mixing up the right values and laying them in. I also have to start to think about what I want to do with my background and where I want it to be lighter and darker. And I also want to think about where I want my cast shadows to fall. So in order to do that, I have to decide where is the primary light source coming from and what direction. So I think that with this, I am going to have my cast shadows kind of fall a little bit behind and to the right, so that my light source would be coming from the left and in front slightly. Because it's going to be on a dark cloth, I may have to make some of the surrounding areas a little bit lighter in order to make my values stand out when I do my cast shadows. So that's also something that I need to consider, that it's not going to look exactly like the photo reference, and that's something as an artist that I know it will look better if I have the cast shadows, because it will make it look like it's sitting. So even though in real life I'm not really seeing it that much because of the lighting that had happened in the room, which was coming from a lot of different sources. When I took the picture, I have the ability to make some changes. But it's just really important that always your cast shadows have the same light source. They shouldn't have different ones on the same page. And as your background, you can have some areas a little bit darker and some areas a little bit lighter. And remember that you can blend it together by using a clean dry brush. You can see now I'm using a really big brush to blend, and it will start to look a lot softer. So if you want your background to be smooth, you can take a big brush and kind of just smooth out the areas. And then you can come back in and define areas that maybe accidentally got brushed over. Sometimes I will paint a little bit of the object going actually overlapping into the background, so that when I come in with my background, I can lay over top of that, and that way I have this like nice sharp edge and I don't have the little white spots of the canvas. You don't want there to be any little white spots left anywhere on the canvas. So now I'm kind of just laying in around. I've decided, I lightly drew in where I wanted my cast shadows to fall, and I'm laying in more of the background. And I'm deciding where I want my ground plane to fall and how I want that to all work in, and I'm laying in these values. So I'm thinking about where the darkest values should be, and I'm laying in those basic shapes for the background. I'm just building it up and continuing to build up. And eventually you're gonna come in and cut in and get really close with your details. And every once in a while, it's a good idea to just step back away from your painting. Your painting should look clearer, and it should look more three-dimensional the farther you step back away from it. So if it looks better standing farther away, you're good. You probably have enough value. Value helps that three-dimensional form. Now I just come in and add a little bit more, blending into this bottom little cup here a little bit. Still laying in around these forms.